My father told 180 people, most of them veterans, to ignore my evacuation order. 3 seconds later, burning insulation fell across the doors he had told them to use. It landed in a twisting sheet of black foam and exposed wiring, throwing orange sparks across the polished floor of the Aviation Heritage hangar. People screamed, the emergency lights flickered, then failed. For 1 second, the only illumination came from the storm outside and a blue-white flash moving through the damaged ceiling panel. My father stood beneath a banner that read 3 generations of command. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Richard Cross lifted both hands. No one moves until we know this is real. It was the kind of sentence people obeyed when they knew the speaker's reputation but could not see the danger for themselves. The crowd stopped. That was the problem. I could up bell-burning plastic. Not overheated kitchen equipment, not a decorative light. Electrical insulation. The public address system had died with the power. The fire alarm produced one broken chirp and went silent. I looked toward the main entrance. A section of overhead display material hung above it by 2 cables. Sparks ran along one edge. "West Maintenance Bay," I shouted. "Move now." My father turned toward me. "Nat, stop." I reached into my uniform coat and pulled out an orange rescue whistle. One edge was burned nearly black. The cord had been repaired with thick, dark thread. My father saw it. Even in the failing light, I recognized his expression. The camp counselor's souvenir. He had called it that for 6 years. I put the whistle between my teeth and gave one long blast. The sound cut through the hangar. Heads turned. I pointed toward the West Maintenance Bay, where 2 aircraft doors had been opened earlier for equipment access. "Table leaders, move your groups west. Anyone with limited mobility stays to the inside. Former aircrews, clear the route. Do not use the main doors." My father stepped off the platform. "You are creating panic." "No, I am creating movement." Something cracked overhead. The burning section fell across the main entrance. The impact sent sparks across the floor exactly where my father had told people to remain. Silence held for half a second, then everyone tried to move at once. Panic does not always look like people running in different directions. Sometimes it looks like too many people choosing the same direction, because no one has given them another one. "Dana, clear the west aisle." Retired Chief Warrant Officer Dana Brooks turned without asking why. "On it, Mendoza." Accountability at the bay doors. Command Sergeant Major Luis Mendoza stood near the brigade command group in his Army service uniform. Most of the reunion guests assumed he was helping coordinate the formal ceremony. He knew who I was. My father did not know what he knew. Mendoza scanned the crowd, the route, and the damaged entrance. "You taking this?" "I already did." He nodded once and moved. Owen, my younger brother, stood beside the scholarship backdrop, one hand resting on a velvet box our father had carried into the hangar. He stared at me. "Clear the east corridor. Check the restrooms and storage rooms." He did not move. "Owen, I heard you, then go." Our father looked between us. His son receiving orders from his daughter in front of 180 people was not the family image he had designed for that evening. Owen finally ran toward the corridor. A reception table blocked part of the west route. 2 former mechanics tried to lift it, pivot it left. "Do not carry it." They rotated the table against the wall. The passage opened. An elderly woman stumbled near the center aisle. Dana caught her and kept her moving. A retired sergeant major began shouting that his wife was missing. Her name, Helen Keene. What was she wearing? Blue jacket, hearing aids. She went toward the restroom before the lights went out. I looked toward the east corridor. Owen had disappeared inside it. Mendoza. He was counting people as they passed through the bay. 112 confirmed. Mark only confirmed exits. Nobody re-enters without a name and location. Yes, ma'am. My father heard the title. He looked at Mendoza, but Mendoza was already assigning 2 veterans to support Dana. Richard reached me. "You need to let the facility staff handle this." The facility staff lost its communication system. "The fire department is coming." "Yes. Then stop treating this like a combat zone." "I am treating it like a building with an electrical fire and 180 people inside." His face tightened. "You are making everyone think the roof is coming down." "I told them which exit to use. You overrode me." "You gave them the wrong one." A second fixture tore loose behind him. I grabbed the front of his blazer and pulled him clear. It struck the concrete where he had been standing. He looked at the broken metal, then at my hand gripping his coat. I released him. "West Bay, I am not leaving while other people are inside." "You are blocking the route." Mendoza stepped between us without making the act look deliberate. 163 confirmed. Continue accountability. Yes, ma'am, my father watched him move away. Why is he listening to you? That is not the question that matters. A shout came from the east corridor. Owen, I ran toward it. Smoke had gathered near the ceiling. Owen stood beside an open storage door, coughing into his sleeve. An older woman sat on the floor against the wall, blue jacket. Helen Keene, her hearing aids were in her hands. She could not hear the alarm, Owen said. The door locked when the power cut. Helen looked at me. I lost my husband. He is outside. He is waiting for you. Dana arrived with another veteran. She crouched beside Helen. Can you stand? Dana took one arm. Owen took the other. We moved her through the West Bay. Her husband saw her and pushed past the accountability point. He held her so tightly that her feet shifted across the wet concrete. The facility supervisor confirmed the last missing employee had exited through the equipment yard. 180 accounted for, Mendoza said. Only then did I breathe fully. Firefighters entered through the maintenance side. One stopped beside me. Who managed the evacuation? Building authority is there. Crowd accountability is complete. Electrical fault near the main entrance. Possible extension above the center display. No known serious injuries. Confirmed count? 180 out of 180, Mendoza said. The firefighter nodded and moved inside. My father stood beneath the rain at the edge of the crowd. His hair had lost its careful shape. Water darkened the shoulders of his blazer. For the first time that evening, he looked less like the portrait on the scholarship banner and more like a man whose order had nearly placed people beneath falling debris. Owen remained near Helen and her husband. He was pale. You found her, I said. You had to tell me twice. Yes, he looked toward our father. Do not mention that. I was not planning to. You always remember the part where I hesitate. Because that is usually the part someone else has to survive. His face hardened. Before he could answer, Richard approached. That was well handled, he said. From my father, those words should have meant something. They did not. He added the part he could not leave unsaid. You have always been good with emergency procedures. There it was. I had established an alternate exit, organized accountability, coordinated a search, and prevented people from re-entering. My father reduced all of it to knowing where the checklist was kept. Dana heard him. That was not a procedure, Richard. She used her training. So does every commander worth following. He gave a short laugh. We are calling crowd control command now? Dana did not laugh. No, I am calling command. His expression cooled. His eyes moved to the whistle hanging from my hand. You are still carrying that thing, apparently. He smiled toward Dana as if inviting her into an old joke. She came home with that burned toy and acted like someone had handed her a medal. Dana's face changed. I handed it to her. My father's smile stopped. You, yes. Why? Dana looked at the scorched plastic. Because after our hard landing, the cabin filled with smoke and the internal communications failed. Natalie used that whistle to move the crew toward the only exit that still opened. A new fact entered the conversation. My father did what he always did when reality threatened one of his conclusions. He stepped around it. Well, that explains the attachment. Dana stared at him. That is all you heard? The fire chief approached before Richard could answer. The fault is isolated. The main entrance and center display remain closed. The West Maintenance Bay has separate power and a fire-rated partition. We can clear that section after testing. How long? The association president asked. About 45 minutes. Rain hammered the roof. The Assumption ceremony had been planned outside. The storm made that impossible. A brigade aide checked her phone. The orders take effect tonight. The ceremony will move to the West Bay once it is cleared. My father looked toward the damaged hangar. It can be postponed. No, sir. Richard's posture straightened. The emergency had ended. The program could continue. That meant he could return to the story he had planned before reality interrupted it. The association president looked at me. Do you know who the incoming commander is? Yes, my father turned. Who is it? Owen raised his head. Our eyes met. His face carried a warning I did not yet understand. I put the whistle back into my pocket. You will hear it in the orders. While firefighters tested the West Bay, the guests waited beneath the maintenance awning or inside a smaller administration hall. I found Dana near a vending machine. You did not have to say anything to him, I said. Yes, I did. You have known him for 20 years. That is why I should have said it sooner. She folded her arms. The first time he called you his safety girl, I laughed. I remember I told myself it was harmless, that he was proud of you in his own way. You were trying to keep a friendship. I was helping him keep a version of you. The admission surprised me. Dana looked toward the rain. Your father had a story about every person he loved. Once he decided what role they played, he defended the story harder than he defended the person. Owen was the pilot, and you were the checklist. Yes, she glanced at the whistle in my pocket. When I gave you that, I thought he would finally understand. He asked why I kept a damaged piece of plastic. I should have corrected him. You did tonight, 6 years late, still counts. Before she could answer, a young sergeant approached us holding one of the scholarship brochures. Yes, are you with the foundation? No. He looked embarrassed. Sorry, I saw you near the banner. What do you need? I applied for the scholarship. They said there would be information after the presentation. What are you studying? Aircraft maintenance management. Night classes. Crew chief? Yes, ma'am. What would the scholarship change? He looked down at the brochure. I could finish the certification without taking a second job. My wife and I have a 3-year-old daughter. His answer changed the scholarship from a banner into a person. The foundation had already accepted applications. Students had arranged plans around money that did not yet exist. Whatever happened to Owen and my father would not remain inside the family. Keep your application active, I said. Do not remove yourself before the board does. He nodded. Yes, ma'am. After he left, Dana said, now you know why Owen thinks you will protect the campaign. I want to protect the applicants. That is not the same thing. No, but he will try to make it the same. 46 minutes after the evacuation, the West Maintenance Bay was cleared for use. Nobody returned through the main entrance. Yellow barrier tape covered the damaged area. Work lights illuminated the blackened debris on the other side of the partition. Volunteers reset the chairs while the colors remained secured under brigade supervision. My father supervised everything else. He moved the scholarship banner farther west, corrected the camera angle, and told a volunteer to keep the damaged entrance outside the livestream frame. No reason to make this look worse than it was. 180 people had almost been directed toward falling debris. To him, the problem was now composition. The banner read 3 generations of command. My grandfather's photograph appeared on the left. My father's command portrait stood beside it. Owen's official image filled the center. An empty outlined space remained on the right. My name did not appear anywhere. The velvet box sat beneath the banner. I knew what was inside. My father had worn the old battalion crest during his command tour. After retirement, he kept it beside his wings and change of command photograph. When Owen graduated from flight school, Richard showed it to him and said, one day. He had never shown it to me. That had not been an accident. Mendoza joined us after reviewing the accountability report. The brigade command group is ready. His eyes moved to the banner. So that is what this is. Owen approached. It is a scholarship campaign. I gathered that. It supports aviation leadership. Good. Owen waited for approval. Mendoza gave him none. My brother turned to me. Can we talk privately? Dana looked toward Colonel Miriam Hale. You do not have long. Owen led me into a maintenance corridor lined with tool cabinets. Through a narrow window, I could see our father straighten the velvet box beneath the banner. You should leave before the formal ceremony, Owen said. Why? You handled the emergency. Everyone saw it. That does not answer my question. Dad is already embarrassed. He called it procedure. You know what he is like. Yes, that does not mean you have to make tonight worse. I have not done anything to him. You know what happens when the orders are read. There it was, not suspicion, knowledge. How do you know what is in the orders? Owen looked through the window. I heard your name was on an event coordination email. And you told Dad no, why not? His answer took too long. I looked toward the banner, the camera, and the velvet box. You knew I was the incoming commander. Yes, you knew he planned to name you the next cross commander. He has not said it yet, then why are you asking me to leave? Owen rubbed the back of his neck. The scholarship depends on tonight. How? The corporate match. I waited. They agreed to match Dad's donation if the campaign launches this month. How much? $75,000. $150,000 attached to a video presenting Owen as the next generation of cross command. What did he promise the donor? A leadership scholarship. That is not what I asked. He said the family had 3 generations of command. There are 2, Granddad, Dad, me. You have not commanded. Not yet, you are not on a command list. His eyes snapped back to mine. The reaction confirmed more than the words. You are not on it. That is not your concern. It became my concern 18 months ago. His face hardened. Do not do this here. I am not the one filming a succession ceremony. It is a scholarship presentation, with your face under the word command. You always make everything sound dishonest because it is not phrased the way you would phrase it. Readiness figures are not phrasing. He stepped closer. I said not here, the memory returned, a projected readiness slide. 3 air crews marked complete, 2 maintenance discrepancies listed as scheduled closure. A percentage high enough to keep the brigade commander from asking a second question. The source data showed something else. 3 crews had not completed instrument refresher requirements. 2 aircraft remained under unresolved maintenance review. Owen called it a timing issue. I submitted a conflict of interest disclosure because he was my brother and within the evaluation scope. I gave him 24 hours to correct the brief and self-report before removing myself from punitive recommendations. He used those hours to change his explanation. An independent inspection found the same discrepancies. What happened after that was still the part Owen refused to discuss. You knew this ceremony was mine, I said. Yes, you knew Dad was preparing to put that crest in your hand. And you said nothing. You said nothing too. I followed the official release. You could have warned him. You could have told him what happened 18 months ago. His eyes dropped. The silence between us contained the truth he still refused to say aloud. I turned toward the hangar. Owen caught my sleeve, then released it. Nat, please what? Leave before the orders. Why? Because once he finds out, he will think you planned all of it. I did not plan the fire, you know that is not what I mean. No, I know exactly what you mean. I moved closer. You want me to disappear so he can keep believing you are the man on that banner. That is not fair, then tell him. I cannot do that tonight. You have had 18 months. The foundation already spent money. Students applied. The donor is watching. You are asking me to protect them or you? Both. That is not the same thing. He looked through the window. You do not understand what happens if this collapses. I understand exactly what happens. You get everything. I stopped with one hand against the corridor door. What do I get? Command, the battalion. Dad finally admitting you were right. I have not asked him to admit anything. You do not have to. You walk into a room and everything becomes a test the rest of us did not know we were taking. For years I had blamed our father's comparisons for the way Owen looked at me. But his eyes were not asking to be seen. They were accusing me of seeing too much, the work required after everyone else stopped applauding him. You think I wanted to report you? I think part of you was relieved. Relieved that you finally had proof you were the responsible one. Owen was not incompetent. He understood maintenance systems. Soldiers liked him. He could make an exhausted room laugh during the worst week of an exercise. His problem was not a lack of ability. His problem was that someone always arrived before consequence reached him. Usually me, sometimes our father. I gave you a day, I said. To turn myself in, to tell the truth. You knew what it would do. I knew what false readiness information could do. No aircraft flew unsafe. That is not the same as telling the truth. His jaw tightened. A brigade aide appeared at the corridor entrance. Ma'am, Colonel Hale would like a word. I'll be there. The aide left. Owen looked at me. You are really doing this. I am assuming command. To him that is the same thing. No, I looked through the glass at our father. He made it the same thing. Colonel Hale stood near the cased colors with Mendoza and the adjutant. Her eyes moved to the whistle at my pocket. I heard the evacuation was yours. The team moved well. That was not what I asked. Yes, ma'am. Full accountability? 180 out of 180. She nodded, then looked toward the scholarship banner. I was not briefed on that, neither was I. Your father requested 5 minutes for a family presentation. I heard. Do you want it removed? She was giving me a way to prevent the humiliation. I looked at the velvet box, then at Owen. No, ma'am. Why? Because it is not my presentation to cancel. It is attached to an official ceremony, then keep it before the orders. Colonel Hale studied me. You understand what he is likely to say? Yes, and the camera is live. Yes, your brother understands. He understands enough. That is what concerns me. She lowered her voice. The Foundation asked the brigade for endorsement language. What did the brigade provide? None. The command claims were not supportable. Does my father know? He received the response. I looked at Richard greeting donors beneath the banner. He heard what he was willing to hear, Colonel Hale said. Mendoza approached. Ceremony sequence is ready, Colonel Hale nodded. Family presentation first, official program immediately after. Mendoza looked at me. You still taking the battalion after tonight? Yes, Owen stood close enough to hear. My father did not. Richard was adjusting the microphone. What was that? Ceremony coordination, sir, Mendoza said. My father accepted the answer because it placed him outside the operational detail. He turned to me. Natalie, stand with the family. Where? Beside the banner. A photographer in a foundation polo looked from the backdrop to me. Are you part of the third generation? Before I could answer, my father did. Natalie works mostly in staff planning and aviation safety. The photographer nodded as though that settled it. So Owen is the command successor? That is the story tonight. Colonel Hale had entered the edge of the presentation area. She heard him. My father did not notice. He pointed to a place outside the main camera frame. Nat, stand there until I call you. Owen watched me take the position. He knew the orders would name me. He knew the scholarship claim was false. He knew our father had erased me in front of the brigade commander. He said nothing. The livestream light turned red. My father opened the velvet box and smiled at the camera like the truth had agreed to wait. He tapped the microphone. The west maintenance bay settled. Behind the last row of chairs, yellow barrier tape marked the edge of the damaged area. Rain struck the aircraft doors hard enough to sound like gravel. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for remaining with us through an unexpected interruption. A few people laughed politely. My daughter Natalie helped coordinate the evacuation. Helped. She has always been excellent when a situation requires organization. Every strong unit needs officers who can manage details, enforce procedure, and keep people moving. The compliment sounded reasonable. That was why it worked. He took an act of leadership 180 people had witnessed and reduced it to a supporting skill. But command requires something more. He placed one hand on Owen's shoulder. When my son was 8 years old, I took him into a Black Hawk cockpit for the first time. I remembered standing outside the hangar barrier, holding both their jackets while Owen sat behind the controls. When they returned, my father called him his co-pilot. He told me I had been very helpful. Owen sat in that aircraft like he already understood he belonged there, Richard said. Warm laughter moved through the veterans. Owen looked toward the floor. My father served in Army aviation before me. I later had the honor of commanding this battalion. Tonight I recognize the officer who will carry that legacy forward. My father turned toward Owen, my son, my co-pilot. Applause began. Major Owen Cross. Owen stepped closer because our father's hand guided him and the camera was watching. Richard rested his fingers on the velvet box. Inside this box is the crest I wore during my battalion command. I will present it before the Army begins its formal ceremony. Owen's shoulders tightened. My father motioned toward me. Natalie, come in for the family photograph. He placed Owen at the center and positioned me half a step behind. There, the Cross family. The photographer raised his camera. I am fortunate to have 2 children who serve. They simply serve in different ways. He gestured toward me. Natalie is the person you want when the plan has already gone wrong. Then he turned toward Owen. Owen is the person who makes others believe the plan will work. The camera flashed. My father had watched Owen hesitate when Helen was missing. He had watched me organize the route that brought everyone out. Reality had presented evidence. Richard responded by changing the definition of command. Dana stepped away from the audience. My father saw her. Dana knows what I mean. She looked directly at him. No, Richard. The microphone caught her answer. The livestream camera shifted. You commanded air crews for years. I did. You know the difference between crisis management and leadership. I know there is no leadership without crisis management. A murmur moved through the veterans. Richard lowered his voice. This is a family presentation. Then stop using military service to make family preference sound official. The bay went quiet. Dana had flown with him, defended him, and attended foundation events for nearly 2 decades. Richard stared at her as if she had changed sides. She had not. She had only stopped, standing still. He turned back to the microphone. The emergency has made everyone understandably emotional. Dana returned to her seat. She did not argue again. She did not need to. The Cross Aviation Leadership Scholarship will support soldiers pursuing education, technical certification, and future leadership opportunities. A foundation representative displayed a ceremonial check for $75,000. Pending the corporate match, the scholarship will launch with $150,000. That changed the room. This was no longer only a family performance. Students had applied. Families had made plans around money that did not yet exist. I saw the young crew chief near the west wall with the brochure folded in his lap. My father motioned for Owen to take the microphone. Say a few words. I was not prepared. That has never stopped a Cross. Owen accepted the microphone. Army aviation gave our family a great deal. My grandfather served. My father commanded. My sister and I followed them. Richard's expression softened. This was the story he wanted. This scholarship is supposed to help soldiers who want the opportunity to lead. Owen looked toward the applicants, and I hope it does. The sentence was careful, not false, not honest enough. He returned the microphone. My father clapped him on the shoulder. Well said. Owen looked at me. He wanted credit for not saying more. I had given him that kind of credit too often. The camera shifted toward the audience while the photographer reviewed the family images. My father caught my arm near the edge of the display. Walk with me. He led me behind a static aircraft exhibit beyond the camera but still within sight of the audience. What are you doing? He asked, waiting for the ceremony. Do not play games with me. I am not. You knew Dana would challenge me. I did not know what she would say. You stood there and let her turn a scholarship launch into an argument. She spoke because you asked her to endorse your definition of command. His face tightened. You have always enjoyed correcting people in public. I have barely spoken, that is part of it. He glanced toward Colonel Hale. You stand there quietly and let everyone assume you are above the situation. I am standing where you told me to stand. This is not about where you stood. No, it is about who you placed in front of me. He lowered his voice. Owen needs tonight. The sentence was simple. It contained most of my childhood. And I do not? You already have a successful career. You do not know what my career is. I know enough. No, you know the parts that allow you to keep saying he needs more. His jaw shifted. Owen has been through a difficult period. Because of decisions he made, because you forced a technical issue into a formal process. You still have not asked what happened. I know what happened. A readiness slide was corrected. That is the version he gave you. He is my son, so am I. You know what I mean. Yes, that was the problem. The donor needs a clear story, he said. Owen needs to be seen as an officer with a future. You already have rank, assignments, and recognition. You think success is something you can remove from one child and use to cover the other. You are twisting my words. You are asking me to stand outside the photograph so he can look selected for a command whose orders you have not even bothered to hear. His eyes changed. For 1 second I thought he understood. Then he said, you could let him have one night. The words reached a place anger could not. Not because they surprised me, because they did not. One night, one cockpit, one opportunity, one lie. Each request was small when considered alone. Together they had built the family. I looked toward Owen. He was speaking quietly with the foundation representative, still allowing everyone around him to believe the future our father described was possible. For years I had believed I protected my brother because our father demanded too much from him. That was only half true. I also protected him because being needed gave me a place in a family that rarely celebrated me. I corrected his training packets, explained his missed deadlines, and softened his failures before Richard could turn them into shame. Owen learned that panic brought me closer. Our father learned that neglecting me carried no cost because I would still fix whatever broke. The readiness report was the first time I refused. That was why both of them remembered it as betrayal. The brigade adjutant approached the lectern. Colonel Hale checked her watch. My father stepped away. We will finish this after the ceremony. No, he stopped. We may continue it when you are ready to ask me what is true. His face reddened. Before he could answer, the association president called him. The official program needs to begin. Richard looked toward the velvet box. He was not ready to surrender the final image. 2 minutes. The president hesitated. The army program is scheduled now. We have donors watching live. Colonel Hale heard him. She looked at her watch. You have 2 minutes. My father treated the limit as permission. The livestream camera returned to the banner. The red light came on. Owen stood beside the velvet box. Richard stepped to the microphone. Before the army begins its formal ceremony, I want to finish one thought. He gestured toward the damaged section beyond the partition. What happened tonight reminded us that military service demands different kinds of leadership. He looked at me. Natalie can control a crisis. Then he placed one hand on Owen's shoulder. Owen can make people believe there will not be one. Someone behind me whispered, that is not how aviation works. My father continued, procedures matter, checklists matter. But soldiers do not follow checklists into uncertainty. They follow people. He opened the velvet box. The old battalion crest rested against the dark blue lining. This crest represents the command responsibility my father passed to me. My grandfather had never commanded the battalion. Facts had always been flexible inside family mythology. Richard lifted the crest, and tonight I passed that responsibility forward. Owen's face lost what little color remained. Colonel Hale looked toward the closed orders folder. Official authority waited while my father performed inheritance. Richard extended the crest. Take it, son. Owen did not move. My father smiled for the camera. Go ahead. My brother's hands remained at his sides. Take it. Owen looked at me. I had spent most of our lives answering that look. At school, it meant he had forgotten an assignment. At flight training, it meant he needed notes he had not prepared. At family dinners, it meant our father was asking a question whose honest answer would disappoint him. For years I stepped in, I translated, softened, redirected. Protected, that night I stayed still. Richard moved closer. This belongs to the next cross commander. He pressed the crest into Owen's hand. The photographer raised his camera. Hold it up. Owen did not. Son, 3 generations of command filled the space behind them. My grandfather, my father, my brother, a complete story built around an empty fact. Hold it up. Owen opened his hand. The crest dropped 6 inches into the velvet box. Metal against fabric, a small sound. Everyone near the stage heard it. My father stared at the box. What are you doing? Owen looked toward the camera. Turn that off. Richard stepped between him and the lens. No, this is a live launch, I know. Then pick it up. Owen did not. My father's face hardened. Do not embarrass this family because you are nervous. Owen's fingers curled against his empty palm. His eyes moved past our father toward the applicants. He still did not look brave. He looked like silence had finally become harder to carry than the truth. The young crew chief still held the brochure in both hands. For the first time that night, my brother saw the people standing beneath the weight of his silence. Richard followed his gaze and misunderstood it. This scholarship is bigger than you, he said quietly. Do not destroy it because your sister made you doubt yourself. Owen flinched. The old pattern was still available. He could let our father blame me. He could raise the crest, smile for the photograph, and promise to explain later. Later had protected him for 18 months. It had also brought him to a stage where a lie carried the names of 12 applicants. I am not nervous, he said. Then what is this? Owen looked across the bay. At the veterans, at Colonel Hale, at the applicants. At me, I am not on the command list. The words reached the room without a microphone. The camera kept filming. My father laughed softly. Not yet. Owen shook his head. No, Richard looked at me. The accusation arrived before he spoke. What did she do? Dad, what did Natalie do? Nothing tonight. Tonight? My father pointed at me. She filed the report. She made sure it followed you because she knew you were the only one in this family with a real command future. Stop. Owen's voice cracked. Richard stopped. It was the first time I had heard my brother interrupt him in public. Owen looked at the crest. She gave me a day. A day for what? To correct the readiness brief. What readiness brief? The lie had survived because my father never asked a second question. Before the aviation exercise, I changed 3 aircrew readiness figures and 2 maintenance status entries. Richard shook his head. No, I marked requirements scheduled complete when they were not complete. You were anticipating completion, that is what I said afterward. Were any aircraft unsafe? No aircraft flew because of the brief. Then nobody was harmed. Colonel Hale spoke. That is not the standard. Richard turned toward her. This is a family matter. No, sir, readiness reporting is a command matter. Owen continued. I knew the percentage was wrong when I presented it. Natalie disclosed that I was her brother, gave me 24 hours to correct it, and removed herself from punitive recommendations. My father stared at me. You threatened him. I gave him an opportunity. You put him in an impossible position. Owen laughed once. It sounded broken. No, Dad. She gave me the only position where I could have kept any integrity. He looked at me, and I used the day to change my explanation. Owen's eyes dropped to the crest in the velvet box. The hand that had held it closed into a fist. For 18 months, the reprimand had followed his career while his silence followed us. When the independent inspection confirmed the discrepancies, I received a formal reprimand and was removed from command consideration. Richard's mouth opened. Owen looked toward the banner. I told you Natalie pushed the investigation because she wanted me off the command list. That is what happened. No, you said she always resented you. I said what I knew you would believe. The sentence struck harder than the readiness figures. Richard stepped backward. You lied to me, yes. And she let you? Even then, he tried to place responsibility in my hands. She did not tell you because she gave me a chance to do it. For 18 months, yes. Richard looked at me. Why? Because I kept waiting for him to become the man you kept announcing. My father pointed toward the camera. Turn it off. The stream is controlled remotely, the donor representative said. The red light held. 1 second, 2, 3, then it went dark. No one moved. Richard faced Owen. You knew she was taking command. Owen nodded. And you said nothing. Yes, why? I thought if the scholarship launched first, nobody would ask until later. You used the foundation. I was trying to keep it from collapsing. You used my name. You built it around my name. The distinction silenced him. Colonel Hale stepped forward. Major Cross has disclosed the facts of his case. The brigade will confirm only what is necessary to correct the public claims made tonight. Richard turned toward her. What this needs is privacy. What it needs is accuracy. The brigade did not endorse Major Cross as command selected or command eligible, Hale said. Lieutenant Colonel Cross did not control the independent inspection. She disclosed the family conflict and removed herself from punitive recommendations. My father looked at me. So that is why they selected you. No, Colonel Hale said. The command panel had the disclosure and inspection record. It evaluated whether personal conflict changed her description of readiness, risk, and responsibility. She turned toward me. It did not. Then she looked at Richard. They did not choose her because she had no conflict. They chose her because conflict did not change the truth. My father looked toward the cased colors. For the first time, he understood the official ceremony was not waiting for Owen. It had never been about Owen. He turned to me. You let me stand there. You asked me to stand outside the photograph. You wanted everyone to see me choose wrong. No, I wanted you to stop asking me to make your choices painless. You always resented the way I supported him. I resented being required to support him too. My father lowered his voice. He needed more support than you did. And because I survived without it, you decided I never needed any. Richard looked away. Owen spoke. She did not ruin me. My father turned. I kept waiting for her to save me from what I did, Owen said. I hated her when she did not. Then I let you call her jealous because that story kept me on the banner. Richard's shoulders dropped. What do you expect me to do now? Owen looked at him. Stop calling it her fault. The adjutant approached Colonel Hale. Ma'am, the orders are ready. The volunteers removed the ceremonial check and velvet box. They could not dismantle the banner quickly, so they turned it around. The blank white back faced the audience. 3 generations disappeared behind canvas. Mendoza stepped into position beside the colors. The adjutant opened the folder. Attention to orders. The bay came to attention. No family story wrapped around the words. Just authority. The adjutant read the order reactivating 3rd Battalion, 227th Aviation Regiment. Then she read my name. Lieutenant Colonel Natalie Cross is hereby assigned as commander, effective this date. Owen looked from the old crest inside the velvet box to the battalion colors. One object represented the role our father had tried to hand him. The other represented the responsibility the army had assigned to me. Mendoza removed the protective cover. The colors opened beneath the hangar lights. Colonel Hale received the staff and turned toward me. Lieutenant Colonel Cross, I stepped forward. She placed the colors into my hands. The polished staff settled against my palm. I felt no triumph. Only wait, assume command. I assume command. Mendoza stepped beside me. Richard stood beneath the blank back of the scholarship banner. For the first time that evening, he had nothing to arrange. The applause began after the formal sequence ended. Dana did not clap until our eyes met, then she did once. Slowly, after the ceremony, the donor representative placed the matching commitment on hold. The campaign had presented Owen as an endorsed future commander, and the brigade had provided no such endorsement. The match may be restored, she said, if the Foundation corrects the claims. removes the family succession branding and adopts independent governance. My father's face hardened, so the Cross name comes off. The current scholarship branding must change. That was the purpose of my donation. Helping soldiers had been part of the purpose. Being remembered had been the other part. Richard looked at me. Say something, he did not want my judgment. He wanted my rank. This is not my authority, I said. Then you do not care if it survives? I care who pays if it collapses. I looked toward the applicants. If the board restructures, do they keep their standing? Yes, the donor representative said. And the match can return after review? Yes, my father stepped closer. You are helping them erase our name. I am asking whether the students keep their opportunity. That money came from this family. Then let it do something more valuable than advertise us. You do not decide how I spend $75,000. No, you do. The consequence remained where it belonged. He could protect the name or protect the students. He could no longer pretend they were the same choice. Owen faced the foundation board. I will submit a correction. I will state that I was not command selected and that Natalie did not remove me. Richard moved toward him. You will not humiliate yourself for a donor. I already humiliated myself. I protected you. You protected the version of me that needed you. Owen looked at me, and she protected me from consequences until she finally understood that was not helping either. The foundation postponed the launch. The applicants kept their standing, and the donor kept the match on hold instead of withdrawing it. My father looked at me. My son confesses. My daughter takes my battalion. My name comes off the scholarship. The battalion was never yours to give me. I commanded it, yes, and it ended. His face tightened. What happens now with the battalion, with us? It was not an apology. It was a question. I will not discuss battalion decisions through the foundation. You will not use my command position in fundraising or present yourself as speaking for the command team. And as your father, you may call when you are ready to ask a question you do not already think you know the answer to. That was where I left the boundary, not as punishment. As a door with a handle on his side, Owen carried the velvet box toward the foundation office. I meant what I said about the correction, he told me. I know, I blamed you because it was easier, yes. You always protected me too often, are we done? I do not know. He nodded. The uncertainty hurt him. It also belonged to him. Before midnight, the foundation voted to remove the succession campaign and place the scholarship under independent governance. The proposed new name was the Army Aviation Crew Chief Scholarship. No cross name, no individual commander as its face. The applicants kept their standing. Dana found me later in the battalion locker area. The orange whistle lay beside my flight helmet. You kept it, she said. For 6 years, I meant after tonight, I picked it up. One side remained blackened from the hard landing. My father called it a toy. He saw a crest and thought command could be inherited, Dana said. That whistle has no rank, no family name, and no polished box. It is orange plastic, exactly. It belongs to the person people listened to when they could not see the exit. I hung it from the hook beneath my flight helmet, not beside the colors. Where I could reach it, the following morning, the battalion formed inside the maintenance hangar. No scholarship banner remained. The colors stood at the head of the formation. Mendoza turned the unit over to me. This battalion will report readiness as it exists, I said. Not as we hope it will exist before someone senior asks again. The formation remained still. A red status is not a personal insult. A maintenance delay is not disloyalty. If an aircrew is not ready, we will say it. If an aircraft is not ready, we will say it. If a plan cannot survive the truth, the plan is the problem. I looked across aircrews, maintainers, medics, and crew chiefs. My father spent my whole life deciding which of his children looked like a commander. The Army asked a harder question. Which one of us could be trusted when the truth made loyalty expensive? After formation, I returned to the locker area. The whistle hung beneath my helmet. The colors were in the commander's office down the hall. One represented the authority I had been given. The other reminded me what authority was for. Outside, a crew chief called out a discrepancy. Someone answered without irritation. I touched the burned edge of the whistle, then I left it where it belonged. Ready to be used, not displayed. It had never been a toy. If you have ever been valued only for what you could fix, share this story with someone who needs to hear it. You are allowed to stop making other people's choices painless.